everybody, we're back, and this is our last video clip for the April workshop. So what we're going to talk about today are soils. Lots and lots about soils. Soils are so important for your garden. Whether you're a new gardener or not, I hope you get something out of this. Every vegetable needs a tremendous amount of organic matter to really produce, and how much rich soil you have will depend on how much organic matter is in your soil. And it will make such a difference for your vegetables. Number one, vegetables in good organic, rich soil will grow better, they'll produce better, and that produce will taste so much better. It really affects the taste of vegetables. So you want to feed your soil. And I brought some soil in just to show you a little bit of soil. Here's my soil, and right now we did rototill last night, and it was a little damp at places. It's not too damp, but there we actually could crumble it apart. You can see I have a little bit of that, but if you take it does crumble. I wouldn't want it too much wetter, but that's kind of how my soil looks. It's pretty nice soil. Anyway, how did I get it that way? Well, I added lots of compost, and we have a compost pile, and I'll have to say up front, we are not professionally doing our compost pile. We tend to get too busy, so when we take garden things, like all the garden plants, we throw them on the pile. The one thing that's very important for a compost pile is it needs to be in the sun. You want to put your plants from the garden on there. You want to put manure. We had some chicken manure. We put that on there. You want to put grass clippings are marvelous. Just marvelous on a compost pile. Chopped up leaves. You can put some chopped up leaves on your compost pile. And I'm just looking over here to see if for mulch, any mulches, or garden dirt that I get from somewhere else in plants or pots or whatever. If I'm taking it out, I throw it on my compost pile along with the plant usually. What you don't want on your compost pile is you don't want meats, any type of meats, that type thing. You don't want any type of greasy stuff on there. And you don't want to put bad weeds on there. Big bad weeds that might have seeds, you don't want on there because you don't want to reseed them. A compost pile needs to be gathered together. It needs air, and it also needs the sun for heat. And if you're doing it right, if you might have a wire around it or a compost bin, and it turns, and that helps aerate it. We tend to burn off the top when we get lots of stuff on there before we use it in the summer. Burn off the top and then kind of stir it up and use it. And it's done well for us, but it's really not the way they tell you to do it. But if you're starting out new, you don't want to put a lot of money into a compost. You just want to make a pile somewhere. So, and do not use wood chips. Wood chips really aren't good for vegetables. They don't do very well. But if you're a little hesitant about what to put on your garden for a compost and you don't have a compost pile, ask a greenhouse. They are very good at directing you to the right type of compost to get your garden started. So, okay, after we added that, they call it an organic amendment, and you turn it in just a little bit. You might put 2 to 6 inches depending on your soil. And if you're using yard soil, say you cut out the grass and you're going to use that yard ground, it does not have very much organic matter, so you want to put at least 6 inches on that. You need that kind of organic. It probably has 10 to 20%, most yard ground. So think about that. If you're using a flower bed where you have put some mulch in before, you might not need that much, but I'd still put some on. You want to get a good start, and you want to put it on before you start. Okay, so that's a little bit about garden composting. Inoculants. Some of the bean family, particularly the peas, need inoculants, and you can get it off your compost pile if you put those good green grass clippings on, your green plants, a little bit of manure, all that type of thing. It actually creates its own nitrogen. But inoculants, plants that need nitrogen, they need to get it out the air, and then their roots actually create little nodules, and they are called nitrogen fixing, those little nodules. But somehow or the other, they have to get it out the air to their root, and they need inoculants to do that. You can find them sometimes at greenhouses. If you know in our area where you can find an inoculant, I would be very interested on you posting that, because 5 years ago I started looking, and that's why I'm making my own. I couldn't find any. I could have gotten it off of Amazon. I really didn't want to do that. So I just looked up how to make my own, and my garden compost was large. And you'll see in the clipping that's added to this, I do exactly what I do to make that compost tea. I might add a little bit of sugar. It's supposed to help it work faster. I might not. And then I just put it right in my row before I plant the seeds. And I will soak my seeds for up to a day or more, sometimes 3 days, in a little bit of that there compost tea. And it really helps them get a little bit of that fresh start too. So that's, when we talk about inoculants, that's kind of what it is. I would advise you, just because I don't have time, to look some of these things up, maybe on your computer if you could. Inoculant, they can tell you a lot more of all the different little chemical names and such. But really what it boils down to is the bacteria and fungi that is created on a good compost pile that had lots of greens, and some manure really is good, will make good bacteria and good fungi. And if you put that on the soil when you're planting the seeds, you're probably inoculating them. But if you find an inoculant, I'd like to know, because I would purchase it to make sure. Okay, I think that's some of the things that I really wanted to talk about. There's way too much to talk about. I was going to show you two of my favorite books. And this is old. I don't even know if you can buy it. It's Crockett's Victory Garden. It is a marvelous. I have worn one out and bought another one. And the other one I use is the Encyclopedia of Organic Gardening from Rodale Press. It is just wonderful. And you probably could get this if you look up the Encyclopedia of Organic Gardening. If you search that, you probably could get it. And it has everything from A to Z and what you need to know about it. Those are two probably that I've used throughout my gardening life more than any other. So I'd like to finish real quick and just tell you a few things. Why gardening? I want to enthuse you. It's so good. You get out there in that good sunshine, good for your health. You get wonderful nutrition. You can't beat the nutrition of fresh vegetables. You get good exercise, and you're moving around. It's just so good for you physically. It strengthens the environmental health. You're not using harsh chemicals. You're being kind to your soil. You're not wasting anything that's going into the waterways. It's great. It's wonderful. And I talk about stress reduction. Oh my husband comes home, changes his clothes, and he's out in the garden. It is his stress releaser. And when I feel stressed, I call the garden my happy place. It really is my happy place. So get gardening, okay? You get your map out. Plan your garden, start the journal when you're going to start your seeds, and have a lot of fun. And hopefully we can meet face-to-face May 18th at Body and Soul in their kitchen from 6 to 7 p.m. Hopefully. And hopefully we'll see you there. Okay.